Hey, this is Luke Symes with Salt Strong. Have some awesome footage for you. This is underwater strike footage with live shrimp. Just wanted to see exactly how these fish feed on shrimp so that we can just have a better chance of maximizing our results. And so this is mangrove snapper, and then toward then I'll show you some pinfish as well. And just to again, to show exactly what's happening so that when you do feel a strike, you can have a pretty good idea of what it is. So this snapper is creeping in. It knows something's wrong. But it still ended up eating finally. And again, what happens when it strikes is very shocking on how fast it actually happens. And then what happens afterwards, I've seen a trend on exactly what happens afterwards that I think can help us all catch more fish more easily. So let's just check out this snapper again. It knows something's wrong, but it just couldn't help but to see what's up, and it was just creeping on that shrimp. That's a live shrimp there. It finally started moving, and every time the actual shrimp moves, it totally elevates the odds that it's going to get eaten. And that one, again, this snapper knows something's wrong, but it just could not leave it alone. It just simply could not do it. You can see my line is going right down here in the middle. It was, I think it was 20 pound mono in this case. And the weight's right here next to it. But it just could not leave this shrimp alone, and then finally ends up in the camera. Oh, by the way, yeah, there's a GoPro camera right down there that a lot of fish have been shy on. The sheepshead are especially shy on GoPros. I have multiple footages of the sheepshead coming right up to it and then freaking out. So anyhow, here's where it finally comes in and gets up there closer to it. Again, we'll just show this whole thing. This whole thing's just fascinating. So what it does, what these snapper do, especially if they're a little bit timid, is they'll get their nose on it and just kind of just nudge it, just a hair. And so right there, it nudged it. And so when I first saw this, I'll go ahead and pause it. When I first saw this, I was bummed. I was like, oh man, I missed the strike. Super bummed. But let's go back. Let's just to see how fast this happens. And so we'll go check this. So this is frame by frame. You can see it just barely moving. Shrimp right here, snapper nosing up on it. But what it did is it nosed up on it, and as soon as the shrimp started to move, it did like a kind of a half strike. And what it does is it suctions in. See, its mouth tried to suction that shrimp in at the same time that shrimp had kicked away. So that shrimp is kicking away. And so again, when this happens, 100% of the time, at least so far, everyone I've seen, after that snapper goes in for the first one and misses because the shrimp kicks off, it gets eaten. And so just watch how fast this is. Let me go frame by frame. Again, similar thing. That snapper basically just noses right up on that shrimp. And then in one frame, this is 60 frames per second. In one frame, that shrimp is gone. And this is not a big snapper. Yeah, check that out. Look how fast that is. So that shrimp is there, and now it is in its mouth. And this is a small snapper. This wasn't even a legal snapper. This was the first one I actually. So this is right behind. There's a canal in the backyard. And I had a rod sitting right here with the line going out into the canal, and I sunk a GoPro down. And so this was the first snapper I caught from the desk, which is pretty cool. And again, so on the fast mode, right? The fast mode, it looks like it missed, but sure enough, it actually ate it. And that's what happened. So what happens afterwards? Let me go ahead and play it. This happens for all of them. Soon as some commotion goes on, now all the other snappers start coming over. They want to know what's going on. So that snapper just appeared within seconds, and then as this snapper is fighting, you can see it starting to come up. It's kind of going up against the seawall. There's eventually going to be 3 or 4 more snapper in there. Let me just go ahead and fast forward so you can see what's going on. So now you can see all these other snapper. They're wondering what's going on. They think there's a feeding frenzy, and so this is just the reason why. As soon as you get one fish, get another lure down there as fast as you can. Have somebody else on the boat drop one down, because again, especially these snapper, as soon as one's on, that's actually feeding call for the others is what they think. So again, this snapper, they're looking for food. That one snapper's thrashing around, but these snappers think that it's feeding. And so they're now they're getting excited. They're trying to see where that next meal is. All right, so here's another one. So shrimp right here. Here's my weight, line going up to the top. And this snapper, it was out here, kind of hunkered down. And what they snapper do every time that they basically hold by these little rocks, they basically position your structure. As we know, they're structure-oriented fish. And then it saw. So right now it's seeing the shrimp right here, and it goes straight in. This one had no idea the line was there, and it went straight in for the kill. And this was even smaller, right? So let's go down and let's see just how fast this thing sucked in. And it's common too where, you know, these snapper, they're not tail biters. So if you're missing a tail, it's probably not a snapper unless they just miss. So in this case, again, it goes right in the middle. They either go in right at the middle or towards the head. And that one, the shrimp actually kicked and ended up kicking its tail into the snapper's mouth. So in this case, you can see it's on, the weight is moving. In this one, it actually let go. So it lost track of it, and there was so much dirt you couldn't see what's going on. But again, as soon as there was commotion, now this one's interested. This one wants to see what's going on. It's ready to steal whatever meal that was. And now we'll just kind of go back, and you can see that it finally hunkered down on its on what it lost. There, it grabbed it, and now it's on. So that second round, that weight is now flying way back over there. And again, a similar situation. In this case, it got off, so there wasn't a big fight. But again, you can see these other snapper. They're now in there trying to see what's going on. Yeah, they wanted to. They're now fired up. So if anybody else was there, they drop a shrimp down and it'll be hooked up immediately. And so I mentioned before, sheepshead have been camera shy. So right over here, sheepshead's creeping in. I have a shrimp right down here, and the sheepshead comes in, and then it looks directly at the camera, and see you later. Look, it's looking right at it, and it's gone. So those those jokers are shy. I really want to get a sheepshead strike coming soon. I'm going to keep trying. But I just wanted to show you what these sheepshead are doing. They are very finicky. All right, so here's a cool example. I put a bigger shrimp on to see. I was trying to get a bigger fish to eat just to see what would happen, and this just shows, you know, what happens even when you know, the snapper in this case and a pinfish are going after a bigger shrimp. They have a harder time getting it. This is right when I dropped it, so they do have a harder time getting it. A pinfish and a snapper come in immediately, and they're ready to pounce. But the shrimp is bigger. It's faster. They totally got surprised there, and again, that shrimp is really out kicking around. And just to see again what these fish are doing, they're trying to peck at it, trying to get a good angle, and this shrimp is doing its best to get away. And then pretty soon this snapper turns around and goes again, not for the tail, it gets it right on the head, So now it actually has it. It just barely has it though. So it's going to try to get it took another bite, try to shake it up, try to really injure that shrimp. Shrimp ended up getting away here pretty soon. And again, you can just see that these fish are not afraid to hit a bigger prey. There's no way that they can actually fit this in their mouth, but they're still going after it anyways. And check this out, right in the background, sheepshead. That was my goal, is to use this bigger bait to get the sheepshead. It was eyeing it, seeing what was going on, and then right up here is when I ended up, the snapper ended up getting the hook in its mouth, and the shrimp actually came away. And as soon as that snapper was thrashing, the sheepshead took off. So unlike the snapper, which really go towards the chaos, it seems like the sheepshead, they don't want any part of it. They like everything calm and everything. And so right now this snapper, this is another one I caught from the desk. It's thrashing all around in there, and the shrimp in this case just fell right off, and then eventually a little dust plume comes up, so I couldn't see what ended up getting it. All right, so this one is going to show what happens when a pinfish alone has it. And so this is when I mentioned before, if you've seen the video that we recently did on just catching snapper from bridges, and I was talking about you feel for the thump and not the little peck. The thump is going to be the better fish, which is actually sucking that bait in real fast. Pinfish are just too small to do that, and so they just tap at it. So you can see there's a shrimp right here, and this pinfish just found it, and so it's in there just grabbing its tail. By the way, so the pinfish seem to go for the tail, and they'll get it and they'll just try to rip it apart. So there, got it. So what you'll feel on the end of your line is just a bunch of taps, right? Because it's grabbing it and it's doing some quick little head shakes. See that little head shake right there? It's grabbed it by the tail. The hook is away from it. And those pinfish just naturally do this. They go for the tail, and if you hook it up front, odds are you're not going to hook the pinfish. So the bait stealers, the majority of the bait stealers are pinfish. They're a lot of people. I used to always think, oh man, I just missed a big sheepshead, or I missed a big snapper, whatever. In most cases, if they're just stealing the bait, they're a little small pinfish. You can see this now has most of it in its mouth. It totally got it off the hook. And I had no idea. Obviously, the weight is still down here. In this case, I was using a big weight to keep it in front of the camera. but I had no idea anything was even happening because this pinfish just was not strong enough to move the weight, and so I just had no idea anything was going on. But again, just a clear example of the differences on pinfish versus snapper. Pinfish go for the tail and just rip it off small piece by piece. Snapper, they go kind of mid-body, if not the head, and they suck it in. They try to get it as much in as possible, as fast as possible. So when you are fishing for them, feel for the thump. And then number two, if you have somebody else with you and you hook into a snapper, get another bait down as fast as possible, because odds are there's some of his friends down there and they're fired up looking for the next meal. Well, I hope you enjoyed that footage. More underwater footage coming soon. I'm determined to get a sheepshead strike on camera. I want to see him hit a shrimp as well as a crab, just to see exactly how they feed so that we can just maximize our odds on catching them. And also, if you haven't yet seen the underwater sea trout footage, have some really cool action of them hitting lures. Some of it's been posted, and then more of it's coming soon. Just some really cool footage. I just love seeing exactly how these fish are behaving underwater. And if you're new to Salt Strong, just know that we're an online fishing club and we specialize in inshore saltwater fishing. We have a massive guarantee. We guarantee two things. Number one is that you'll catch more fish than ever before. Every single week we give you a game plan, exactly what to do based on the recent trends, as well as the upcoming weather to maximize your odds on catching redfish, sea trout, snook, and flounder. And then obviously we cover the snapper, sheepshead, tarpon, cobia, all the seasonal stuff. And number two is that you're going to save money on tackle. We now have a huge tackle store, and we give 20% off to all Insider Club members, so you can save a ton of money, you can catch a ton more fish, and have a lot of fun, and we totally guarantee it all. Link down below for details. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you again soon.
There's something about the water that'll give you peace, all by yourself or with your family. Live Salt Strong and wear the line today.